This is a public service announcement before the episode starts. If you'd like to see Asuma potentially get killed by opening a couple of icosahedrons at the beginning of the next episode, that's one of them in my offhand, that's a bit of a thing, then leave a like on this episode. If we hit 3,000, I will open 2 of these at the beginning of the very next episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Hermit Skies. Are you looking forward to this one? I'll tell you, I've been looking forward to doing this video for a while now. Do you want to know why? Because we're going to do some building. It's a buildy episode, going to work on the base. All that area behind me is going to get built up, and I cannot wait. We're going to be doing much more than just that, though. We will also be doing some technical stuff, because we got resources to spend, peeps. I'm telling you, we're off to a cracking start here. Look at all of this. We have farmed 10.2k of each of the types of metals from our farming setup over there. This is fantastic stuff. We have maxed out the upgrades, and we've also farmed a redonkulous amount of emeralds, which means we can actually craft the top tier upgrade and put them in here and store even more resources. Some of you will point out that I could also just put some of these ingots into these ones over here, but I kind of want to do this system with one item per slot in the drawers, right? And then eventually we'll be able to hook this up to applied energistics and then be able to search for all of our items. It's going to be awesome. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. We want to make a jetpack. We're going to be making that jetpack out of carbon ingots and possibly some other things as well. So in order to make carbon, I've got to refresh my memory. What are the uses of this stuff? That's right, we can make coal blocks. And with that, we can smelt it. We can get the raw carbon that we can put into the smeltery and turn into ingots. That is some straightforward stuff right there. There is my alloy smelter. Get in there, get smelted, and then we'll start putting this stuff in here. Well, it'll also get smelted again, I guess. Excellent stuff. So anyway, in between episodes, this stuff has been running around the clock. It has been doing a fantastic job. And out the back here, I've actually stopped extracting all of the metals and stuff from here because they filled up the drawers. There was no need to keep processing them, right? We've got a void upgrade on these, so you can see that most of them are now at the max amount that it can store. So when new stuff comes in, it just gets voided here, and that means that these things aren't running around the clock wasting lots of power, which is pretty cool. And we'll probably come back to this and upgrade this in the future, but like I said, focusing on the jetpack today, right? Another thing that I've done is I made a few ingots. This is actually for the Ender.io page over here. There's just so much stuff that we could craft and just get some loot chests. So I figured, why don't I make a few alloys, complete all of those, and then we can go ahead and, you know, open some loot chests. What we're going to do right now. I also want to make one of these as well, so I can start storing some experience, which might be useful in the future. And because I've died a few times, I've never really accumulated too much. But if we open this right here, that is utterly fantastic. 64k ME storage component. Brilliant. 4 of them as well. And we got a stack of Nether Stars. You know what? I'm not too cheery about this because they're fakes. Get out of my inventory. They're not the real thing. And then here we have some lithium dust. No idea if that's going to be useful or not. Oh, good times though. Good times. We are getting some good stuff here. I like those storage drives. Now, what I want to grab is a stick and a diamond, and we're going to make ourselves an eye chisel. We've already got a diamond chisel. We've actually worn through that a little bit, but an eye chisel is an infinite chisel, and this is going to help us out for doing some building. So we need a gold, we need a redstone dust. We chuck these in together, and we get the eye chisel. Check it out. This thing is absolutely awesome. It has a GUI, dare I say it. I think it's a GUI. A GUI. Let's open this thing up. So when I click on this here and then click over here, it shows you what they look like when they're like connected, and you can rotate them. You can change the shape as well, which is pretty fantastic. That looks really weird. And then you can also, I think, hold down shift to chisel all. So you can change all of these types into the one that you want in your inventory. Dude, get out of here. Didn't I just mention storing my XP? A spider has spawned somewhere and found me. I need to press F7 and look for the place it can spawn. I don't know where it is. I reckon I must have missed a spot on the ceiling. I don't even know where I was. Apparently I was over here when I died. Well, that is not very good. We've seen a few mobs spawn in this area recently, and I don't know where they are spawning from. There are no little yellow X's on the ground to tell me. So that was most unfortunate, I guess. But I got some of my XP back. And I think I'm going to craft that experience obelisk straight away. Right, and in my grave we shall also find a backpack. So the last backpack that I had, the channels were white and it wasn't locked to me like you use a diamond over here. So I crafted this ender chest so that I could link it to that and that I could put all of my things in here. That's what this ender chest was. I completely forgot about it. So now the two of those are linked together. We are opening some loot chests today. Here's number 4 and 5, Epic Bacon, and tier 1 chance pendant. That might actually come in useful later on. Pretty cool. I've crafted the basic capacitor bank and we've got this to store our experience. But right now what we want to do is make a jetpack, and the game, or the quest book if you like, will actually encourage you to go down this road right here. I may end up making these later on just to get the quests, right, to complete them. You can see they're relatively cheap, but there's also a lot of crafting and bits and bobs here and there to get these. We're going to skip all of that and jump straight to an endgame backpack with our carbon, which we've been farming from the coal, remember? I'm showing you all the steps on how to do this with this series, so you can follow along and play like a pro or a derp, depending on how you see this. So these things, just blaze powder and carbon ingots, very cheap. And that thing in the middle is just made out of carbon as well. So we can pretty much make the carbon jetpack right now. What we've got to do though is find a place to store some power, and this thing will act as like a charge as well. For now I'm just going to slap it on the side of this thing and it should start charging up. Excellent. It is going not very fast, but that's fine. And then we can put our jetpack into here and that will start to charge up. Excellent. And then once we've got that thing up and running, we're going to have ourselves some flight. And there we go, fully charged up. We are ready to fly, people. Are you ready for it? Are you ready for it? We're flying. We're flying like that. I'm above the void. It's slightly scary. I'm going to drop down here again. Maybe that's where that spider spawned. Maybe there, because I don't think there's many other places around here. It's all pretty well lit up. And that's it, we're flying, just like that, we're in the sky. This is going to be super useful for us moving forward. One thing I'd like to point out though, it's not going to last for very long. Look at that, we've almost gone through a quarter of it already, so we've got to use it sparingly. We're not going to be flying and placing blocks and building like this. We're basically going to build like we can't fly, but this will help me, you know, get down below and then jump up top again real quick. So that's going to be a huge aid, and it's going to help me build the rest of this area here that really needs building up. Look at this fella hanging out on my roof. Get wrecked, buddy. Get wrecked with my brand new cleaver that has beheading. Did that just give us 2 of those? No, I already had one down there. I've been beheading all sorts of mobs and getting some loot. This cleaver is made entirely out of carbon, and I believe also a little bit of paper, so we could get an extra a modifier on there. So then I want to put a bunch of ender pearls and obsidian on there. That is the beheading modifier. So now this thing's got beheading 7, which is a 70% chance of getting a mob head, which is pretty fantastic. And if we go to the Nether and find some wither skeletons, that'll help us get some wither skulls and maybe fight the wither real soon. I got plans, people, but this is a building episode. In fact, I'm gonna take care of all of that in a moment, because apparently they are slow to break, even with a carbon pickaxe. So if we look around, you can see that I built the rest of the framework for this floor. And again, it's the sky that really kind of interrupts the atmosphere of this place, right? As we build it up more and more, we're going to see less and less of the sky, like those little gaps over there. So what I would like to do is build up what's on top of here and below it, ready for the floors that go above and below. But to create like a basement in between as well, as quite often you're going to have like wires and stuff that go underground and things like that where parts of your floor go down a little bit. So we need like a buffer between the floors. We don't want them to start straight away. And I think that this look that we've got here would actually be a bit much if we used it on every floor. We want some variation overall, and so we need to create something in between. Now I'm going to start over here so I can stand on top of this and not exhaust all of my jetpack fuel, but I'm going to try and use something I don't think will work. This is, yeah, look at this. It's based on like a fixed position in the world. Is it the same on that side? Unfortunately, that's not going to line up with this at all. That gives us no flexibility, and it doesn't line up with these edges as well. Otherwise, giant fans between each of the floor would look pretty cool. But I'm also considering that rather than pulling this up, what material is it again? It's this one right here. So rather than going 1, 2, 3 like that and having another material start the next floor, might be a good idea to have the same sort of perimeter block here and then another material in the middle. So we could go 1, 2, 3 like this, and then the next floor perhaps starts with this material instead, which is pretty vibrant and funky, right? and then we just have to fill in all of this space with this material. But I do need to decide what material it is I'd like to put there. That is outside of our original build palette. However, we're going to need to use more blocks if we are to expand the look of this place. So this is where I start to mess about and try out different things and see what ones I like. Look at that. Awesome. Tyrion is the block of choice there. Plus I pushed it back a little bit so we have a lip that gives you a bit of a shape, you know, some 3D dimensions. So it's this stuff, and there is a similar texture to that as well, and I'm kind of in two minds about breaking this up a little bit by throwing in some of this texture with it. Then we'd have to do the same thing down below, because I was going to reserve that texture for up there, this one for down here. Maybe I can find some other purplish textures to go along with them, and then we can have it like going random the whole way around, which would probably look the best. Now I've got to do the same thing down here, and I'm really not looking forward to this part because it's, you know, that thing right there is going to run out at some point, right? And it lets you know when you have about 2% of juice left, which gives you seconds to get to cover. To get to safety, you know what I mean. So I'm not looking forward to this at all. Regular inventory checks is what I'm going to be doing. We can do this quickly though. And up the top there, by the way, I used the grey wireframe, which is like, that's the purple equivalent of. So down here is where we're going to use the other factory block that is gold plated, this one right here, the more orangey one. So I thought I'd put a little bit of that in right now for us to check out. We are approaching halfway on the jetpack. It is slightly scary, and let's just zap that all the way over to here. Then we want to go and stand where we would actually see this from, right? And let me press F7 to get rid of that. That also looks superb. So some really nice decisions there. I love the fact that we chose purple. It's not a colour I'd choose to build with, so I get to feel like I'm challenging myself often, but that is looking pretty good so far. Wow, that is looking pretty spectacular, especially at night time here. This is definitely going in the right direction, and I think it's about time we address the torches. There is something in this game called a mega torch that can stop mobs spawning in a large area. I plan on using that, however I've learned that it's actually really difficult to make in this pack. So I'm thinking we might make that. I need to learn how to do it. Or we create another sort of light source to replace all these torches, because they're kind of ugly, right? But anyway, I was thinking about mixing the two of these together to do some like random block formations, like this stuff right here. And I really don't think it's going to work. That does not look particularly great up there, and there are not a lot of other textures that might fit in, like this one down here might, and that one there, I think. But it's going to lead us on a whole other path of trying to get dyes, which means we've got to get grass to bone meal the grass and get red dyes, and that's not particularly what I'm interested in doing right now. And while I've been working on the whole of this, I've been breaking blocks, and I've been using a magnet from a particular mod called Quantum Flux. This is probably the best magnet you can get. So when you break blocks like this, they flop down onto the ground. You have to go close enough to pick them up. I think the magnetic nature of my pick is currently doing that for us. So let's try again. They're lying on the ground, or are they not? We just can't see them. There we go, a whole bunch of items on the ground. When I activate my magnet, the ones near enough to me get zapped into my inventory. This is pretty much instant. Although you see the item come towards you, it's not like it's being pulled along. It's actually teleported straight to you, which is really great. So when you're breaking blocks like this, it's just in your inventory before you know it. And it requires no power. It is quite cheap to make as well. So a piece of iron and then ender pearls. We've been collecting those from the endermen in our base. We've been to the nether for quartz. And then this requires something called darkstone. So if you remember earlier, we got some ink sacs. You know, that's how I crafted that material. Just some cobblestone and stone with that. So if you're playing along with me, make sure you get this magnet into your inventory. It's pretty much the best one you can get. Well, idea number one, pretty fantastic. Replacing those slabs with glass slabs. This just feels awesome when you walk over it. And I've been tidying up our entrance island, starter island, whatever you want to call it. I need to remove these as well, don't I? They're kind of ridiculous. And it looks so much nicer now that it's all clean, and then not having any wooden slabs on view is really nice as well. That's looking awesome. And then I started to work on a little bit of a fence to go around the outside here, and I'm just not feeling this. Maybe it's the scale, maybe it's because I've used the same texture here. I'm actually just going to leave that as is. If you want to leave a comment about that, I've got more to do here. Maybe I'll come back to this again, but I think a little bit of railing on here is probably a good idea. Just didn't really like where that was going. What I want to do now is tidy up and expand this area here, make it bigger and fit in all of the sorts of things we've got lying around, all these junk bits like tables and stuff from Tinker's Construct. I want to get that all in one central hub place, and of course that's going to revolve around our storage system. As I'm opening this area up, I start to realise that there is a texture that I used around here that's actually really good. This one right here, although I used the neon panel before, I think I'm actually going to be better off with that, because the texture we're going to match it with is going to already have a border on it, a golden border as well. So I've kind of left these bits here, cobblestone there and gaps up there, and I wanted to have a block that was going to emit like a light and have an interesting texture, and it kind of turns out that this matches. Now that might need to be pushed up by one block because we might just see too much of it. That certainly does fit in, yeah, but we are seeing too much of it, and the same thing going on down here as well. Maybe I could chisel these into half slabs and then they'd look pretty decent. So here it is, an expanded area. I plan on adding even more storage drawers here and then putting all of our AE2 stuff back here. We can open it up if we need more space. And then these are like little work areas for throwing down junk items and building blocks and other things that haven't really had a home, and it's looking pretty cool. These, by the way, are framed trims, so they use the same texture as this stuff, and I put those on the corner so it actually connects to all of these drawers over here, so they are functioning drawers. And I'm just finishing tidying up, moving around some of these random chests that we got, and I wanted to upgrade them to iron chests, and then I remembered there's this, a wood to iron chest upgrade. So if you've got some junk chests as well, if you do this, aha, it keeps its inventory, and then you can also pick it up with Silk Touch and put it back down with the same inventory, which is pretty fantastic, right? So I got a load of old stuff in here. I can just whack that onto it, pick it up, move it over here, put it back down again. That's pretty awesome. So to wrap this one up, I've thrown down some more railing, and I tell you what, it just ain't working for me. I wanted something that was high enough that you couldn't just jump over the top of it, although I can actually do that with this, but I guess, you know, higher than a half slab so you don't automatically walk over it would be good. But it just ain't right. I just got to try a few more things, I think. But that's where we're going to wrap this episode up. We've done a lot today. It's taken me a lot of time to do all of this building, and we're going to have a lot of fun next episode where we could be opening some of those icosahedrons. I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, thank you as always, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.